Ni hao, wu jiao, Stephanie, and I don't know if I've ever told you what that means. I assume people watching this channel are learning or have learned Chinese, and I've realized recently I've made a lot of assumptions about this channel that may not be true. So that means, like, ni hao is hello, and wu, which I'm never saying correctly, wu is I, so wu jiao, Stephanie is I am Stephanie. I also want to say I live in Shanghai because I feel like I know all of those words. So let's give it a try. 我住 Shanghai. Is that how one says I live in Shanghai? I don't know how to do the time part of that, meaning it's a current thing it's a continuously current thing. That's redundant. I don't know. So I could look it up on Google Translate, but I like to struggle. I decided also to do a new background because I love this thing. This is a shower curtain that I got in the US before I left, and it did not fit our first apartment. We had glass doors in our bathroom in our first apartment. And yes, I'm in the bathroom because one, the acoustics on these walls is pretty amazing. And two, the shower curtain needs to be seen by the world. I love this thing. So I'm technically in Europe for the next few minutes. Okay, let's just agree on that. So this video is about assumptions. So this didn't fit our last apartment, but it folded down so tiny. It was barely the size of a notebook, so I kept it. And when we moved into this place, I was like, I don't know if the color scheme fits. I don't know anything like that. It probably still doesn't go with everything else in this bathroom, but I love the water. And I love that despite we're not in China, they're still hanging. Oh, you can't see it. I have to move too far. Not that flexible, but they're hanging their clothes outside. I know China's not the only place that does that, but yeah, there's just similarities between Europe and China that most people don't make because a lot of people just focus on the negative of things. But I'm not talking about negatives. I'm talking about assumptions. Assumptions are that you're learning Chinese. Some of you are. Some of you are not. Assumptions are that you might be interested in learning Chinese. Some of you might be. Some of you might not be. Assumptions are that you're an adult language learner who's studying by yourself. Some of you are. I don't know what the rest of you are doing. This has been a much more active channel than I had ever anticipated when I first decided I needed to study at home. No, I needed to study alone, and I needed to study, but I needed people to talk about the process. I thought I was mostly going to record and talk to myself, and you guys have been awesome. But what I haven't really explicitly addressed, and what I assumed is that you picked up on that I don't have a study space at home. I showed you where I film at home because I'm either filming as I'm walking down the street, which you may have seen, or in some interesting places, or sometimes like now, I'll wake up in the morning, throw on some lipstick, and be like, I have to get this idea out into the world. And that's when I did the tour of the apartment video a few weeks ago. That's what I was showing you, was where I'm filming the videos. But to be very honest with you, and I don't know if I've made this clear, I don't study at home very much. At first, last year in 2017, I was traveling a lot for work. When I mean a lot, I mean I was out of town, not out of the country, but out of town. And that means a lot in China because going from city to city is an extensive experience. And the country's huge. If you don't know that, go look at a map. It's gigantic! And so I was traveling all over the country, but mostly up north near Beijing. Although sometimes we went to Dalian and Qingdao, and we went down south. I didn't go as far as Guangdong province, but I did go pretty far down. And so I was traveling a lot for work, 3, 4, 5 days a week. Generally, that I was doing that until I want to say November. So January to November, and I started this channel in April last year. Excuse me, I'm starting to develop a cold. And so I needed to develop ways of studying that I could do anywhere and that I could carry anywhere. And I thought coming into the second year, when I've been traveling less for a number of reasons, a lot less, I thought that I could develop a space at home. And I bought a desk that came with a really uncomfortable chair. So I bought a cushion to put on the very uncomfortable chair. And I also have my giant yoga ball that I use as a chair. And it hasn't quite worked. Because what's happening is, if I'm not traveling, it means I'm not working. Not true. But I'm working less in addition to not traveling as much. They're all connected, blah, blah, blah. But what's happening is that if I'm not working, I don't want to be at home. Not because I hate my home. This is a lovely apartment. But I am an extrovert in the extreme sense that I need people's energy around me. And if I stay and work from home too much, I feel like I'm depressed, but it's not depression. I just energy-wise slow down. So what I've done in the past few months accidentally is I've figured out how to study anywhere, like any coffee shop, any restaurant, any public space where I can sit down and be reasonably comfortable, and ideally have a plug for my phone. So even though I haven't been traveling for work, I've still been a mobile language learner. And I think this is what I like. I like to be able to go to, like today I'm going to an art museum on my day off, and I like being able to go to whatever part of town I want to explore and to make the most of that, because Shanghai is one of those big cities where it takes a while to get anywhere. It's almost like LA in the fact that it takes you an hour to get anywhere, even if it's 2 miles away, or even if it's 20 miles away. It takes an hour. So if I take an hour there and an hour back, I want to do as much as I can in that place. And so I will sit down and study for a couple of hours somewhere. And so I guess you could say I'm a mobile language learner. Everything I study in a given day is in my bag, and my bag has gotten heavy. And I'm trying to figure out how to deal with that. But, and I bought a tablet, and I'm trying to switch over to some digital content. But what has helped me progress the most is stuff that's writing oriented. It's handmade. It's going from the course books and the workbooks that I'm using and writing all over them. That's working out really well. That's something that can't transfer to any tablet, no matter what the tablet can do. Even if I can use a stylus, it's not the same as a pencil. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure that out. But I don't know that I've been super explicit. I know I film from a lot of coffee shops. I know I film when I'm walking around a lot. But that's not just because I have to, that's because what I like to do. I like to explore, and I like to see different parts of the city, and I like to go to different places, and I like to be surrounded by the energy of other people, whether I'm talking to them or not. I like to be surrounded by people doing things. It's one of the reasons I live in cities, which is probably one of the reasons I'll never live in a quiet place like this. Even though it looks idyllic and gorgeous, I would probably be bored out of my mind, and I would probably think that I was depressed because I'd be so, I would slow down so much energy-wise. So yeah, so I don't think that I think I've assumed that you've picked up on how much I move around and study wherever I am. And I get a little jealous when I see people in the language learning community on YouTube and their language bookshelves and their language, like the space that they study and where they keep their books and their textbooks, their flashcards, and like all of their resources in one area. And then I realize, okay, I admire what they're doing. It would be interesting to have one space, but I'm just not that person. Even before this learning experience, I've always tended to grab my books, and this really hurt when I was studying engineering because our books were huge. But I always preferred to grab my books and go to the library, coffee shops weren't as popular then. That's how old I am. It was more of like going to a late night restaurant and ordering coffee and fries and hoping that they wouldn't complain too much. That's all that we ordered for our 6 or 7 or 8 hours study session. So, but I always like to go out into the world to do my studying, and I don't know if a lot of people do that. I'm guessing from the propensity of coffee shops globally that is a thing. But language learning wise, I don't see a lot of other folks doing flashcards. I do see people studying at the cafe near near where I live that I film from sometimes, because that is near a university that has a very reputable language program. Actually, I have interviewed a woman for the Changing Scripts podcast that's coming out soon, who is studying Chinese there, and so we'll be learning more from her soon. Plug, plug, plug. It's not up there yet. That's just an instinct to do that. So, yeah. So there's that. So I'm a mobile language learner. Let's just put a term on it. By choice. Last year, it felt like it wasn't a choice, but it was. And it's what I've actually done for a long time. I just didn't connect my previous learning experiences with my language learning experiences because I feel like they're such a different creature. And they're not, really. They're really not. I learn best when I have the energy of other people to gobble up. Sounds rather monstrous, but that is who I am, and I'm not actually harming them, so we all play along rather well, I think, especially when there's caffeine involved. So that's it. Do you study in a set place? Or are you a mobile language learner like I am, where you just take your stuff with you and at some point during the day you study? I'd be curious to know how many people do what I do consciously because they want to, not because they have to. If you only have the opportunity to do something, then by all means take it. But this is actually a choice. I've had a lot of opportunity the past few months to set up a spot at home, and I've tried, and it just doesn't feel right. It's not really who I am or how I do. I feel like there's a song in that. Anyway, yes, I know how I do is not proper English. I don't care. It's fun anyway. I love this shower curtain. Yeah, anyway, so that's that. That is that. I am a mobile language learner. I'm coming out as a mobile language learner. I think it needs to be explicit because I think studying languages in addition to work, I can't say full-time work because I'm not working that much, but I am working, and life and partnerships, romantic and otherwise, and other projects, and there's a lot of factors in language learning, and I'm not the kind of language learner that is just taking a language course and that is the main focus for a few years and then I will graduate and do something else. I am a fully fledged older adult that has a million things going on and is trying to etch out the time. No, forget trying. I am etching out the time to study a language and progress at whatever rate I can. Just keep progressing. And honestly, since I started the HSK series, and it breaks my heart to say this, but I feel like I've progressed the most by going through the test prep stuff. Yeah, it is the best graded material of learning the Chinese language that I have seen. I hope there is stuff I haven't seen that's even better, that is not related to test prep, but at this point, it makes planning my self-study language learning super easy. And since the books can be torn up rather quickly and I can carry around just a chapter at a time, not so bad. Not so bad. Anyway, so I thought I would talk about this and ask you guys what your experiences are. Where do you study? What stuff do you have around you when you study? I have one or two phones because I have a recording phone, which is what I'm using now, and then I have my functional phone that actually works with the 4G in China. My US phone does not because it is too far behind. That's how advanced electronics are in China. Yeah, I have those. I have headsets. I have my transcripts. I have my Lightner box flashcards. I have lots of paper and pencils so I can erase. And those are the main things. And they're usually all around me. So it takes me about 10 minutes to set up. And then I study for 1 to 2 hours, and then I pack it all up, and it magically fits in my bag. Although, the more chapters I carry around during review weeks, the heavier the bag gets. Oh, and the glasses, because I have to see. Anyway, that's what my language learning environment looks like. The backdrop, just like this guy here, changes very often. And that's the whole point of the video is I am not a stationary language learner. I am a mobile language learner. And I wonder how many of you are too. Goodbye from Europe. And really, China. Shanghai, China. Satjan, which is goodbye.